Hey everyone, it's Vismaya Rubin, founder of Living in Gratitude Today, teacher, speaker, best-selling author, but my favorite role is that of a gratitude gangster. What? Super excited. I have Susan Glusica here, the Unrivaled Realizer, and she's going to share with us some fabulous tips today. And one of the reasons I have her on is because she is part of the Living in Gratitude Today journal, and I want people to know who you are. I want people to know who the participants in the Living in Gratitude Today journal are, because really, if it wasn't for you, this would not have been possible. And truly, it has been such a gift to the world, and people are using it and they're enjoying the journals. And it's interesting to see how many people have started a practice, a gratitude practice. Once they picked up this journal, they were like, I'm not buying this gratitude stuff. And a lot of men especially, and it's been super interesting to see how the practices have helped people and shifted them out of feeling kind of doom and gloom to this space of like, wow, look at all the magic in my life. So welcome. Thank you for saying yes. I'm super excited to talk to you. How are you?
Thank you. I am well. And I am super grateful for being here and being part of your tremendous movement. I'll give you a little bit of background for how I got here, right? In way back when in my corporate career, I had a crisis of legacy. I cut my teeth on Wall Street and worked for a number of top Fortune companies where I understood, from the wealth management side and Wall Street and investing to the information side, and then all the way to the insurance side of the business. So I know the industry really inside out really well. However, my final stop in that trajectory kind of left my soul feeling a little bit bereft, and I couldn't see my footprint. So one of my advisors at the time, our financial advisor, Joe, said, well, why don't you do what I do? A lot of what I do is teaching, and you've always wanted to be an educator, so it would fulfill on that legacy piece that's missing. And so this July, it'll be 10 years that I actually moved full-time into that endeavor after kicking the tires for a year and a half to make sure it was what I would be good at and be able to help people. So I moved to the client-facing side of the industry. And I've always hired coaches. And so in my 8th year in of serving people, what I realized, and what one of my business coaches, Renee Gambino, helped me understand, is that no matter what people's income is, and I serve people from 75 grand all the way up to $1 million plus in household income, right? And everywhere in between, no matter their income, people just don't know how to attract in and invite in and receive more money so they can be, do, and have more. So I actually was reading this book by Sir David Hawkins called Power versus Force. Do you know it?
I don't, but I'm interested in hearing about it. And I don't know if you realize I was also an educator for 20 years, so.
Uh-huh.
But I taught high school, and I did a lot of character development. I did, and that for me is a big legacy piece. Even now, like, I love the teaching part. And also, like I was sharing with you before we got on camera, one of the reasons I love the teaching part is because every time I teach, I learn. And the more out there speaking the words, the more I'm starting to receive, the more I receive the message at a deeper level. And I'm always shocked at how the message hits me based on where I'm at. So I totally get it's funny because that's one of the things that I miss about being in the classroom, is constantly being in front of people and knowing that I'm making a difference. And now I don't always see the feedback because I'm in a bigger platform. So I hear you.
Right. Yes. So when you're doing that one-to-one or that one to a smaller group, say up to, 15, 20, 30, maybe even, it's very easy to see your impact viscerally, like immediately. And then once you get on a larger platform, it is a bit harder to see. And what I do know from even what we were talking about before we got on camera, how gratitude and joy and happiness and pleasure feels, right? There's a lot of talk right now in the environment about, feeling all the feels. And when I discovered that there are 7 levels of energetic money consciousness, right? Like everything's energy and so is money. And if you are to believe Wallace D. Wattles' Science of Getting Rich, right, that just by breathing, we're all worthy, and that this, abundance is our natural birthright. And the reason it feels so, super awesome and easy when we're in that mindset and that experience of that natural abundance is because that's how it's supposed to be all the time, right? So a lot of what I do is explain, okay, here are the different levels of money, and I'll go through them in a minute if you're interested.
Yeah.
And how they connect to gratitude, how remaining grateful 24/7 or as much of 24/7 as humanly possible helps you get into that unlocking of the connection of abundance. That's where we're supposed to be, right? And so I read this book by Sir David Hawkins called Power versus Force. And I had read it before. This is my second read through. And as I read it, I said, oh my goodness, this is how money energy works. He posits that you can calibrate whatever either state of mind or emotional state, kind of one and the same to him, right? How you energetically resonate in the human body when you're in that state. So as an example, when I say shame, right, it really reduces, in fact, I feel it now in my body, just the word shame or regret or grief or worry or doubt or anxiety, any of those, they're life-taking. And they're very low on the resonance scale. And the pivotal point actually into the upper or life-giving energy levels is courage. And when we take courage and step into it and really vibe it, that connects us to the higher registers of happiness and joy, and ultimately gratitude is the highest vibe you can be in the human body.
You could see the difference. I didn't know that, but you can see you could see your energy shifting as you were saying those words.
Yeah, it goes higher and higher. Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'll ask this question. I do use the words anxiety because I think it's important to acknowledge those feelings, acknowledge those moments when I know that there's times that my body's like, "Argh." And by being able to express or to name it, hey, this is what's going on for me right now, I'm then able to shift it. But I think that what happens sometimes, like in the beginning of this whole pandemic, and I know this is not about the pandemic, but I think in the beginning of any crisis, I think what happens is often people want to shove those feelings down and not talk about them and pretend that they don't exist. And I think that was a big problem I was having listening to everybody online, like, oh, be happy and be grateful and be joyful. Well, whipped cream on a mud pie is still a mud pie.
Right.
So I think that we have to be able to name them. I don't want to say stew in them forever, but voice them so that they can release. I think that there's power in that too.
It's a very important point, and you're absolutely right. That because remember, what we resist persists. Mm-hmm. So, and psychology shows us that, suppressing anything is never a good idea, right? So yes, you want to, in fact, the people that I follow, my mentors and my coaches will tell you it's actually a better idea to grab onto that emotion and ask it actually to turn up in intensity so you can really feel it and really connect with it, because there's always a lesson or a message in that experience. And courage doesn't mean that you don't have fear. It means that if you're feeling fearful, you still take the action anyway, right? It's not a negation of the fear. It's an acknowledgement, and even in the face of fear, taking that next step or moving forward down your journey, right?
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. Great point. Great point. And in the way that I have conceived these different energetic levels of money consciousness, you know, we've all been through them in some level. And the ultimate one, I call, you're going to like this. I call this, so there's 7, and you move from 1, which is called deficient absence, and that and level 2, captive desire, are all where like the money's not coming in, it's actually leaking out of your world, right? Those are the life taking levels. And then in 3, there's courageous forgiveness. That's the pivotal point. It's a turning point where it starts that starter abundance intentionally, right? And there's now a conscious practice. We were talking about practice before we got on camera, how important that is for, you know, our lives, right? And giving a container within which to be free, because within the structure lies freedom. That's like a paradox, right? Bit of a paradox, and it's so true. But the 7th, the highest one, is enlightened gratitude, because gratitude, as I said before, is the highest vibe you can be in the human body. So no matter which level of the 7 levels you find yourself in, right? Actually 1 through 6, because ultimately 7 is the desire, the peak money consciousness arena, right? You can vibe gratitude and it will notch you higher and higher with regard to your money. So what does that look like? I pay a bill and I say, I am so happy and grateful that I have money to pay this bill. And I'm so happy and grateful that more is on its way. That's one of the gratitudes that I like to say a lot, is no matter what happens. So say I have a conversation with a prospect.
I want to stop you for 1 second. I want to stop you for 1 second. That's such a different energy. I'm grateful and excited and so happy that I have the money to pay this bill versus, oh my God, here it goes again, out the door. Total different energy, doing the same activity, total different energy. And I remember a long time ago, I remember I wanted to get stamps that did not say something very nice to send off to my bill, you know, collectors or bill, whatever, the bills I had to pay. And I remember one day realizing and started laughing, because why do we buy these beautiful checks? Like, remember when people used to write checks? I would buy beautiful sunsets and really.
I have a Tuscan. Yeah, I have the Tuscan set.
Right? And you're signing them and it's so pretty.
Because I love writing my checks.
Right. So I think that's it's such an interesting way to look at it. And really it's just about changing right here, shifting. And sometimes I think that we need to say it, even if it's not necessarily what we believe right away, but that's such a great practice. Like, wow, I'm so grateful that I have the money to pay this bill. I'm so lucky. I'm so blessed. And I love that. And I think that's something so tiny that people can take away, and just, even if it's on the computer, like you're sending it, sending it. Wow, look at how lucky. I going to the grocery store during these past few weeks has been that experience for me. I go in and I'm like, wow, I'm excited when I find rolls of toilet paper, and I'm like, wow, thank you, God. And I hear myself saying it. Wow, look at this beautiful, bag of lettuce. Thank you, God. So.
Yeah, I know. We were thrilled that we didn't know what to expect. And what we do is we go early on a Tuesday morning, seems to be the best for our local. We're up in Pennsylvania, so that seems to be the best for our local conditions here. We've been fortunate. In our county, we didn't have a lot of cases. So it's actually been a really a more sedate experience of this whole cultural phenomenon right now. So anyway, we go there, and we were actually pleasantly and gratefully surprised that we actually got everything on our list except one little minor thing, and then we found it like a week later. So we're, expressing gratitude and vibing gratitude and really living gratitude. Yes, it takes some commitment to that, and it takes some fortitude, especially when the human brain's tendency is to have us focus on, like, laser focus on the circumstance right in front of our faces.
Mm-hmm.
Where the truth with a capital T, when you energize that over the circumstances, it's much easier to achieve and remain in gratitude.
Yes, and
Absolutely.
it's interesting because the research shows that most people think, well, I was just born this way. Well, no, you're not. 50% of your level of happiness is based on your genetics. And then another 40% is based on what you said, your mindset, your perception, how your paradigms that you see your life through. So I think that is that we get to shift those paradigms if we choose to. So I keep going because this is fascinating.
Yeah, and to your point of paradigms, which I love, I've always been a paradigm pusher. I've always been at the forefront of, well, how else could this be? Or how could this be better? Or how could, our experience be amplified? And we were talking about the amplification, right? That we're in the period of amplification right now, because the reality or the truth is that there is only abundance, and that we either have an abundance of bills or we have an abundance of money, or we have an abundance of time, or we have an abundance of clients, right? There's only abundance. It's the human mind that sees the lack. And one of the people that I have met through Women's Prosperity Network, which is where you and I did meet too, her name is Dr. Yvonne Oswald. She's an NLP and hypnotist, and she's amazing. She has an exercise where you look up at the ceiling, because when you physically look up, you cannot feel any of the lower emotions. It negates them, right? So
I
you
need to ask
look
you this.
up
Are you
physically.
looking up with your whole head or looking up with just your eyes?
You can lift your chin and look up to where the ceiling and the wall meet,
Okay.
right? Like that. That's where the chin up expression comes from.
Got it. Okay.
Right? And what you do is then you put your hands out to your side, you wiggle your fingers so you can see them in your periphery. And what that instantly does is it widens your perspective, your visual, you're commanding your body now, right, to expand your perspective physically first, and then the mind jumps in. And so if you're faced with a challenge, or you're faced with an unknown or uncertainty, or you're looking for a solution and you can't quite see it, that's a great instant, oh, I'm going to expand my perspective. And in that expanded perspective experience, you will connect to the truth with a capital T, that there is only abundance. In fact, there are unlimited ways for the money to come to you.
I love.
One of the exercises I direct my clients through is, imagine a way you could identify the top 3 ways for you to attain whatever your money goal is. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. And because that was the first thing I was going to ask you, and you kind of answered. I was going to say, so what are some tips that you could give somebody who's like, I got hit hard. The money's not coming in. What would you say to somebody in that case? I love the example of look up, open, expand, because you're not only looking up, you're opening the whole body. You're
the chest, the everything. Mm-hmm.
I love
and to your point of so now you're in that expanded perspective state. A great thing to ask yourself, because remember, the mind is a beautiful, fantastic thing, right? It does a really good job at one thing in particular. It loves to find solutions to problems, or challenges, right? And within every challenge lies the seed of opportunity. So when you ask this question, it's going to give you some amazing results. You can say, what in this situation is the one little thing I can be grateful for? There's always one little thing. And then the brain will find that and give it to you, right? And then you can say, what else? And do it 3 times or 10 times or however long it takes for you to then feel that gratitude.
It's kind of like the Socratic method. You keep asking questions, and I really, that's what I call what I do a gratitude practice, not an attitude of gratitude. And that's exactly the reason. It's the constant searching, the constant looking, the constant asking. And I think I like what do I have to be grateful for in this situation? Sometimes I ask, what am I supposed to learn? Like, what is the message? What am I supposed to learn? But I think there's a higher vibration with what am I grateful for in this situation? Even if it means the same thing, the wording is different. So
and you could get into that gratitude resonance and then say, and what is the lesson, right? Because you're in that elevated gratitude resonance, right? Energetic vibration, and you're in that expanded perception experience, you're going to have a different now relationship to whatever that lesson is for you to grasp.
I love that.
It amps it up. Mm-hmm.
Totally. And that's why I keep saying to people, it's practice. Be kind to yourself. If you're not feeling that right now, keep doing it, keep practicing, keep asking, what am I grateful for? Like, take those breaks and look for your gratitude wins periodically, because and exactly what you said, if we train our brain to look for those juicy moments, those powerful moments, those delicious moments, we find them.
And we become an even better finder going forward, right? It trains the brain.
Yes.
And then the brain will remind us, oh, and look, you can be grateful for this and you can be grateful for that. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're talking the same language.
We talked about the physical, being grateful, right? There are ways, not only in terms of like expanding that perspective, but anything physical, like going out for a walk, plugging into nature, looking at beauty and art, having plants in your environment. That's all high vibe. Listening to music, right? All high vibe. Then there's the spiritual, like the meditation, right? Or the yoga, because yoga has both the physical and the spiritual and also mental component, right? Then there's mental, right? Like having that gratitude practice, right? That engages you and engages your mind in the practice and expression of gratitude, right? Absolutely. And there's also the social aspect of it, right? Like I talked to one of my clients last week and she said, oh boy, I needed a break because I was on 3 2-hour Zooms in one day, right? Well, I had a Zoom call yesterday that I kind of checked in with myself before I went on it. It happens every other week. And I just said, no, I need to be doing this instead of that, right? Because I had also then been on 4 Zoom client meetings, and that was a little too much for one day for me, right? In terms of what I wanted to accomplish for that day. So you give yourself permission also to check in with yourself and verify that the thing that you thought you were going to be doing is still the thing to do.
It's interesting. It's funny because now that we're all at home, and for some people that's a new experience, and I find myself sometimes feeling like I have to be busy every minute of the day. And I was listening to somebody who's like, wait a second, 30 minutes you're in the car going to work, 30 minutes you're in the car coming home, and obviously we're not driving as much, even if I work at home, so I'm not in the car doing all those other things. But it's okay to sometimes say no. It's okay to give yourself a break. It's okay to just breathe and play. I mean, I sat here on Sunday and I always like, oh, if you're going to do something, you should listen to something educational, learn something. And I was like, no. I turned it off and I sat with my, I'll show you. I mean, it was so silly, but I was making the little cardboards for my gratitude, my affirmation bracelets, but it was so pleasurable to be stuck in glue and scissors and cutting and
the tactile creation.
I was having so much fun, and I watched 2 trashy movies and got all of this stuff done, and I was like, perfect. But I want to go back to something that you said, knowing when to take a break. And I also think that I was on the phone with a friend recently, and he was telling me everything that was going wrong. And I was buying into it. I was like, wow, so much. And finally I said, what's the best thing that happened to you this week? Mm-hmm. Because I think it's important to listen and to share and to hear, but then we get to break that cycle. So when I said that to him, and it's something he said reminded me of that, of the constant moving and going, and he was sharing with, he had a lot to be sad about, I understood, but all of a sudden I was like, what is the one thing that happened to you this week that that you have to be grateful for? And just those conversations completely shifted the energy of the call. And
Yeah, it's a great point. Mm-hmm.
that was a very
Yep.
powerful experience for him, because he's like, wow, thank you for saying that to me.
Yeah, and we're all human. I mean, just because I know all of this great stuff and I energize it and I walk my talk and I teach it, so I know it at like, a cellular level. Hey, I'm human just like everybody else, right? And I was talking to a colleague today before this conversation, and I started in with, it was a bit of I was just reporting in, and so I have two businesses. One is as a money and abundance and prosperity coach, and the other is as I help people with their financial plans, right? Because I didn't stop doing that just because I launched a coaching business, right? So that practice has been frankly super productive and almost overrun, because now people are really, like I said, this experience we're in right now is an amplification process. So if you did have a good financial plan, right, it amplifies that. If you did not, it amplifies that. And the people who did not have it or wanted to make sure now maybe they had it, but now they realize maybe there's more to be done in their plan, are all, coming to me and saying, okay, everything we've been talking about, want to make sure how solid is my financial plan, right? What are the flexible options within the plan if I need to, if I don't get the money from the government or what have you, what are my options? And then let's make sure that in the future, I'm even more well positioned, right, to respond to unexpected life events and frankly, unexpected opportunities. That's the other flip side everybody forgets, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's been incredibly, I'm just stepping full on into service there. And I'm eternally grateful that I, about 10 years ago decided to pay attention to my crisis of legacy and not just push it away, right? To actually confront it and experience it. And what should I be doing now instead? And I was able to pivot with the direction of a really good friend who saw more in me than I did at the time. And that's essential when you come up. So if people have a conversation with me, I serve their highest level. I have an incredible ability to see your utmost potential, right? And that's what I serve, and that's what I engage with, right? Whether you see it or not, I can see it. And so this Joe was that person for me over a decade ago, where he saw in me something I had no clue even existed. And that was the stepping stone to now what I do in my coaching practice, in opening up abundant money flow for people and cash flow that's consistent and you can count on in any circumstances, right? That's really important right now. People are very focused on their cash flow situation. So it's interesting. A lot of business coaches are talking about pivoting, but actually I follow a mentor, Elizabeth Purvis, who will say it's not so much about pivoting. It's about really making sure you're clear on what's the value that you deliver and why do people want that, right? And as long as you have those two things, right, the money's going to flow.
I love that. You gave us a lot of little tips, like little, nuggets. And so I just want to go back and recap. So when you're paying your bills, whether you're doing it by check or on the computer, wow, this is wonderful. Thank you so much, universe, for the ability to pay my bills. I'm so grateful. Fantastic. The money is going out because so much money is coming in. When you're stuck, chin up. Look at the ceiling where the ceiling meets the wall. Open your hands so you can see your fingers fluttering and you can open that realm of abundance. Super great. Remind me, there was one more.
So I'm not sure so when I'm downloading stuff, I'm not sure I'm going to track it all for everybody. Let's see, what else did we talk about? Oh yeah, that there's all these different ways to plug into the vibration of gratitude, right? Remember, there's physical, there's spiritual, there's mental, right? And then there's social. And I'll say this too, as an additional tip. Remember that your power of choice resides in every conscious moment. And it's really an interesting thing to get to know. What are you available for? What are you available for allowing into your space, right? We sometimes forget that. That's totally within your control. So as we grasp for ways to have control over our current circumstances, remember that way. And it's a very quick, instant way to command control back in your world.
And the language that we use, I remember saying,
Yes.
I want to be taken care of. And I had been given so many experiences over the past year where I had been taken care of, like really, taken care of. Mm-hmm. And I remember that there was a small piece that I needed to add to that, but it took me going back and saying, okay, so what are the experiences that I've had over the past few months? And what is it that I was asking for? And sometimes it's just taking a look at those words that we're using. What are we asking for? What are we saying that we want? What words how are we speaking our truth or our asks to the universe? And being very conscious that we get what we want, and if we walk around and saying, I have no money and it's hard to make money, that's exactly what's going to show up.
Absolutely.
The other piece that you said, and as you were speaking, I just had it. Let me think. Hang on. It was in the middle of something, asking, going into that space of gratitude, and then I added in the piece of, what am I supposed to learn? That was the other.
Right. What's the lesson?
What's the lesson? Right.
Yeah. And I follow Christy Marie Sheldon, whose program Love or Above is awesome if you're into or interested in consciously raising your energetic vibration, right? And love or above, meaning that love is like kind of in the realm of, say, 0 to 1,000 of energetic vibration, where gratitude is 900, love is 500. So she's on a mission for all humanity to be vibing at love 500 or above. She says that this is an important part to remember as well. The piece of visualization, like imagine something long enough and it shows up. That's how creation works, right? And we co-create with source. So keeping that in mind, it is possible to create any level of money that you can conceive of. Yes.
That was very powerful.
I felt the energy there.
Yeah, it reminded me of something that I read, and it was similar, but it was said differently. When it's from the Book of Miracles, and I don't remember it exactly, but it was something to the effect of, those people who totally trust the process or know that what they want is available to them, it's almost like they don't allow themselves to be anxious. The anxiety or the fear or all of that stuff subsides because they know, and there's no timeline. They're not worried about if it doesn't happen right now because they know that that is available. And I'll find share it with you.
It's like being grounded in truth. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So fascinating.
Like imagine if you were grounded in truth 24/7 and you served from that place. There is literally no limit.
I agree. Yeah. And there's days that I say to myself, I know my name, because people thought I had lost my mind when I stopped teaching. What do you mean? You have a good job and you're in the system and you're going to retire and you have a pension. And I said, yeah, I get it. And going to work every day, I'm miserable. This is not fulfilling what I need to do. And not that I didn't love my kids, because I did. It was the other stuff. So I took a jump. I took a leap of faith. And I know my name, I'm on the right path. I may not have all of the pieces figured out yet, but I know.
Yep.
And to explain that to somebody, sometimes they don't always get it, but I know my name, what is possible for me, and the vision that's possible for living in gratitude today. So I can't tell you how much that and we had no idea where we were going to go on this call today. Yeah. I don't always like to prepare so much because I like it to be the flow and the natural conversation. But I'm so grateful that we had this call today, that we chose this day, because it's been opening, it opens up a lot of things for me, and I can only imagine what it's going to do for the people listening and watching. And really the message to take away is that the sky is the limit. Like, whatever you put in your realm of possibility for yourself, it's possible. Like at Landmark, they say anything you want for yourself or your life is available out of your participation in the Landmark Forum. But I'm going to even say anything you want for yourself or your life is available if you speak it and believe it.
Yep. So if I'm able to make an offer to your audience, I'm happy to do that. In the spirit of Women's Prosperity Network, we always like to offer gifts, and I have a scheduler, and I'm happy to spend 45 minutes in a connection call with anybody who wants to uncover and get more clarity around what's possible for their money. And I usually do that in a quicker call, but I find that people who don't know me want a little bit more get to know you time. So 45 minutes seems to be the sweet spot of that. And so it's available on my website, which is susanglusica.com/schedule. And just pick the connection call, which is 45 minutes, put in your information, and you'll be booked on my calendar. And I'm also happy to focus, if this is desired on the call, to have it be a money discovery call for money opportunities in your world right now because of what we're living through. I can do either of those, give you clarity or very specifically pinpoint money opportunities that you may just not be seeing right now in your world.
Beautiful. And I'll share that link with everybody when I send out the video. So that was very awesome. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I want to add that, remember what you're grateful for, and that will propel you into higher and higher levels of money, reality, energy consciousness. And may you ultimately attain the peak money consciousness level of enlightened gratitude.
Beautiful. There you have it, folks. Susan Glusica. And I will share your information with you. And thank you for joining us. I am Vismaya Rubin, founder of Living in Gratitude Today, and your favorite gratitude gangster. What?
Thank you.